Oaxaca City, Mexico, one of the top places to experience Day of the Dead, also known as Dia De Muertos. There are so many things happening in Oaxaca during this time of year that you can't possibly fit into an itinerary. But in this video, I will tell you the best way to experience it like a local. I have traveled to different cities in Mexico over the last 4 years to take part in this incredible celebration, and Oaxaca is my favorite by far. I spent over 2 months researching and planning for this trip, had it confirmed by locals, and went to experience it myself. Watching this Oaxaca Day of the Dead travel guide will save you a ton of time and energy, so let's dive in. Day of the Dead starts on October 31st and goes through November 2nd. But for the full experience, I would recommend traveling there on the 27th and leaving the 3rd. That way you can see all Oaxaca has to offer outside of the Day of the Dead festivities. It's really important to book your lodging 3 to 4 months before you go. I'm not kidding when I say literally every hotel, hostel, and Airbnb gets booked in the city. Next, I'll explain what to do during these days, and later tell you the best areas to stay and how to get there. Before the Day of the Dead starts, take a tour of the Cempasúchil or marigold fields. You can do this at Cultivos El Viejo, which is about an hour outside of Oaxaca. I'll put a link in the description below. The flower of marigolds found in Mexico is also known as the flowers of the dead and is a native flower to Mexico. The scent of marigolds helps guide the spirits back to you. There are tours that take you to the fields along with other important sites outside the city, which I'll link below. On the Sunday before the Day of the Dead festivals, head to Tlacalula Market for the Pan de Muerto festival. Pan de Muerto, or Bread of the Dead, is something you're going to see on many street food stalls, markets, and on altars. At night is when the festivities come to life, but during the day, there are a lot of exhibitions, such as food events and sand tapestries, or tapetes de arena, and live music in places like Plaza de Danza. There's posters plastered on walls throughout the city that show the official schedule of events, which changes every year. So as soon as you arrive, keep an eye out for these and snap a photo. You can also visit oaxacaevents.com, which I'll put in the description. If you're looking for all of the best things to do while in Oaxaca that are unrelated to Dia de Muertos, I'll put a link at the end of the video. No Day of the Dead trip is complete without experiencing the cemeteries. On October 31st, the spirit world opens and the souls of those who have passed return to their families for 24 hours. Before you go, consider grabbing a bottle of mezcal and some treats to bring and share with the families you interact with. But of course, this isn't required. The most popular cemeteries to visit are Jojocatlan, often referred to as Jojo, San Felipe, and Atzampa. They tend to get packed during the night, so if you want a calmer experience, I would recommend going at dusk. The best ones to visit on the 31st are Jojo and Atzampa. Later in the video, I will talk about getting around the city. On November 1st, take a taxi or tour to San Agustin Etla, which is about 45 minutes away from the city. There you'll experience an all-night parade called a Morteada. It's the loudest, craziest, and most local place to celebrate. Months are spent preparing the costumes and parades. Following the brass band, the people dance throughout the neighborhood, going from house to house, welcoming the spirits to come out until sunrise. And on the final day of November 2nd, it's a good opportunity to hang out in the city and watch a few final parades in Centro and spend time eating local foods you haven't tried. In the evening, have dinner at Los Pacos restaurant to try the 7 different moles of Oaxaca. Then over to Haletlaco to see the comparsas, or parade, that go on from about 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. To locate a comparsa, look and listen for the telltale signs. A brass band leading the parade of people and large puppets with their arms swinging wildly. And during all your time there, walking down the pedestrian street called Calle Macedonio Alcalá is sure to provide an experience filled with people dressed as Catrinas, face painting, and plenty of amazing photo ops. The street is located in Centro next to Zocalo. One thing you are sure to see and must try is Pan de Muerto. This bread symbolizes the cycle of life and death due to its circular shape, and there are hundreds of varieties. You can find this at markets, street food vendors, and several places that sell Oaxacan hot chocolate, which is a staple for the area and complements the Pan de Muerto perfectly. Tamales Oaxaqueños is a traditional dish from Oaxaca, and making them during Day of the Dead is a typical family tradition to eat and place on altars. It's tamales stuffed with corn dough that has shredded meat and mole negro sauce, then wrapped and cooked with banana leaves. It's the banana leaf that makes them oaxaqueños versus a typical tamale wrapped in corn husk. You can find these at the mercados, street vendors, and you can also partake in making them during an authentic Day of the Dead experience that I will link below. One of the most traditional and well-known foods from Oaxaca is mole negro. There are a total of 7 varieties of mole, with mole negro being the richest and strongest of all moles. It has a very unique taste thanks to the 30+ ingredients that make up this dish. You can't say you've visited Oaxaca without having mole. This dish is typically reserved for special occasions like weddings and Day of the Dead, where traditionally families will get together for the hours it takes to prepare it. As mentioned prior, Los Pacos is one of the few places that have tastings of all 7 moles. There are 3 primary neighborhoods that you'll want to stay during Day of the Dead that have strategic access to all of the festivities by foot. I spent days wandering the streets by foot in each of these areas, and not one of them would be considered unsafe. First, we will start with Centro. This is where all the action is. Everywhere you turn, you'll see face painting vendors, street food vendors, incredible restaurants, museums, parades, sand tapestries, live music performances, and more. It's also where you'll find all of the historic architecture. Everything in Centro is within a 10 to 15 minute walk radius. Next up is the charming and colorful area called Xalitlaco. This is a smaller neighborhood made up of a few streets that's about a 20-minute walk from Centro and a hot spot for Day of the Dead. If I go again, I'll probably stay here or Centro. Xalitlaco is one of the most colorful neighborhoods I've seen. The streets are covered with papel picado from above, brightly colored walls, and elaborate murals. It's a little less hectic with traffic and people than Centro, but it's still a very popular area. One of the cooler hotels I walked into was the Marriott. It has unique architecture covered in pink. Xalitlaco is an Instagram mecca, and there's no shortage of photo opportunities here. And last on this list is Xochimilco. Xochimilco is the oldest neighborhood in Oaxaca that was built in the early 1700s and unique in its own right, with an 18th century aqueduct that runs through the area. The crowds are even thinner here, the cobblestone streets have more elevation, and there's a true residential feel as you climb higher and higher away from the main road. This is the area I stayed in, and anytime you wanted to get to Centro, you can expect a 20-minute walk. This is a great area, but would be my last choice on the list, despite its beauty and traditional personality. If you're not staying in this area, it's still definitely worth a visit. Getting to Oaxaca is easy with 2 primary ways to get there. For those on more of a budget, you can fly into Mexico City and take a 7-hour bus to Oaxaca. There's a bus station right in Terminal 1 of the airport on the 2nd level above Door 4, and another bus station a few minutes away by Uber. I would recommend using busbud.com and booking a bus called Auto Platino. This is the most comfortable ride with lay-down seats, Wi-Fi, and power outlets. Some other perks include a private waiting area at the bus station, and you'll be offered a variety of drinks as you board the bus. There's also overnight buses, so you can use the 7 hours wisely and sleep on your way there. And the other option is taking a direct flight from Mexico City to Oaxaca that average about $200. The airport is a quick taxi ride away from the city central and is about a 1-hour flight. If you have some time, I would recommend exploring Mexico City during your transit. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. Now, as far as getting around Oaxaca, they don't use Uber, but the taxis are plentiful. You won't wait more than a few minutes before being able to flag down a cab, and getting around the neighborhoods on average is about 100 to 200 pesos, depending on where you're going. Anytime I took a taxi, it typically cost 100 pesos. They don't use meters and just tell you the price. Some people opt to download an app called Didi. You can use this to order taxis and food delivery. Oaxaca is a very walkable city. Just take note that most of the streets are cobblestone, which will take a toll on your feet after a while. Between the main neighborhoods of Xochimilco, Centro, and Xalitlaco, again, everything is about a 20-minute walk in between the neighborhoods. I opted for walking most of the time because I like to explore the streets and alleys filled with boutique shops and murals. If you're where all the action is for Day of the Dead, expect traffic to be very backed up. The police will randomly block streets, and there's parades of people walking around everywhere. I rented a car from a place called Only Rent a Car in Centro. When returning the car in the evening, I was stuck in traffic for over an hour and couldn't get to their office to drop off the car. but they were generous enough to let me keep it overnight without an extra charge. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I truly hope you got some useful information out of this video. If so, let me know in the comments. And also please take a few seconds to like the video and subscribe. I spend weeks to months planning out travel guides so you don't have to, and always making improvements for each video I release. I'd greatly appreciate the support. And if you guys have any questions about Day of the Dead in Oaxaca or anywhere else in Mexico, please let me know and I'll answer them right away. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the magical place Oaxaca turns into during Day of the Dead.